Okay, so the pelvic patterns are exactly the same as the scapular patterns. Anterior elevation, posterior depression, posterior elevation, anterior depression. Same thing, okay? So the difference is that the hand contacts, manual contacts, are iliac crest and groin, ASIS, and ischial tuberosity area. Okay? The movement, the amplitude of the movement is a lot smaller. We don't move our pelvic, we don't have pelvic motion as much as we have scapular motion, unless you're a belly dancer or a gymnast or a Cirque du Soleil acrobat, whatever. But for the most part, it's much more limited. So you're not going to have as much amplitude, but it's done in the same side lying position, okay? So anterior elevation goes with lifting your leg up, which is compatible with gait, okay? Going from push off to initial swing. So you have to anteriorly elevate, okay? Posterior depression is a very small movement, and posterior depression actually happens with push off. Okay, so anterior elevation takes you into initial swing, and posterior depression happens at the end of stance phase with push off. Okay? Yes? That's anterior elevation. As you're beginning, as you push off, now your leg has to come up. So the pelvis goes into anterior elevation. And then when you pass heel off, you're in mid stance, heel off, that's when you get between like heel off and push off. That's a posterior depression. Then you have anterior depression, and anterior depression is the end of swing phase. When you put your foot down, you reach down to the floor with your heel. That's the anterior depression. Okay. And posterior elevation happens at heel off. Not a lot of movement there. And a lot of times people who have low back pain have problems with posterior elevation. So their pelvis is not going into posterior elevation, or it's hard for them to do that. So that's where these pelvic patterns fit in. So for instance, if you have someone who had a total hip replacement, okay, and they're walking with a stiff leg, or even a total knee replacement, maybe they need to work on the pelvic pattern of anterior elevation. Maybe, could be a lot of things. You could think of it, they need to work more on a gazillion other things, but that's one of the things that might be a possibility. Okay, so the sequence, rhythmic initiation, where your hand contacts don't matter, okay. Reverse, active assistive reversals if you need to. As soon as I say reversals, hand contacts matter. Active assistive reversals if they need it, active reversals with a hold at the end, dynamic reversals, possibly stabilizing reversals, and possibly combination of isotonics. Again, that's the sequence in its entirety, but you don't have to go through the whole sequence. Okay? All right, so let's look at what I need somebody up here for the pelvic patterns. So you're lay on your side.
Facing.
Yeah, face that way. Okay. Then hips and knees. Okay. So, so now we'll look at, here's his iliac crest. Okay. There's ASIS. And here's ischial tuberosity, posterior ilium. Ischium, I should say. Okay, so we're gonna go posterior elevation, anterior depression. Okay. Anterior depression, posterior elevation. Okay, so I have to find that diagonal. So, and I'm going to be standing similar, close to the line of his femur. Okay, so let me move your leg. I know that's hard for you, but okay. So again, legs are heavier, so you really have to use your body, okay? My headlights are facing his femur, and so we're gonna move you down and forward, and then up and back. Down and forward, up and back. Now, when I'm taking him up and back, so you see down and forward, but if I'm standing here, you see up and back creates a rotation. So I have to modify that and change my angle to go down and forward and up and back. That's where I need to be. I don't know, could you guys see that difference? If I'm here, this is good, but this has him rotating backwards. So I gotta change my angle because that's not what I want. I want just the pelvis moving, not lumbar. There. Okay. So that's a repeated rhythmic initiation. Okay. Now I want you to slide your knee on top of the other leg. Yeah, slide it forward. No, keep the knees on each other, the lower leg on each other. You're gonna go like that, and then we're gonna come back here. Okay, so I don't like my instructions for that because that had him moving his legs all over the place. So just push into my fingers here, that's all. Okay, and now come back up into my hand. just like that. And then pull down into my fingers, forward, and now push up into my hand. So down into my fingers, I have one hand around ASIS, the other one posterior ilium, and come forward. And then coming back, I have a posterior ilium and superior ilium here. Okay, iliac crest, posterior ilium, and then down and forward. Stay there, and up and back. Stay here. Down and forward. Stay. Up and back. Stay. So that's.
Did Dr. Sofer changing something? Did anyone observe what she was doing? You guys were watching her very closely. No, yes, along with the hand, she gave another technique while she was doing this.
Quick stretch.
Quick stretch, very good. Yeah.
Quick stretch, yeah. And now down and forward. Stay there. And let me bring you up slow. No, stay there. Stay there. Let me bring you up slowly, 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 slowly. Good. And now go down and forward. Hold it. Let me bring you up slowly, slowly, slowly. Good. And down and forward. Hold. Let me bring you up slowly. So that's COI for anterior depression, or come up and back into my hand, hold, and let me push you down slowly. Let it go, let it go, let it play out. That's it. And up and back, hold, and let me bring you down slowly. Okay? There is such little amplitude with the pelvic patterns that I don't even bother with stabilizing reversals, because the amplitude that you're going through is so small that it really doesn't make a big difference. Okay? So that's posterior elevation and anterior depression. And we're going to go right into the other one, anterior elevation, posterior depression. So, same position, only this is my diagonal. Okay. So I have to find that diagonal. Okay, so that's posterior depression, anterior elevation. I've got to make that small adjustment. Okay, so this is where I thought it was, but this is where it is. Okay, anterior elevation, posterior depression. Lumbar spine goes side bend to the right. Okay, to his upside. Lumbar spine goes side bend to the left. Okay. Now pull your hip up toward your shoulder into my hands. Good, nice. Hold it. And now push down into my hand. Hold. And I have to drop down to really get my trunk to be able to resist this. And pull up and forward, hold it. And now push down and back into me. Push, push, push. Hold it. And let go for a minute. You working?
Yeah.
So,
All right.
did you see that last thing where he stopped pushing in the middle of it? And what did I did? I gave him an extra stretch. I said, push, push, push with the stretch. That's repeated stretch.
Repeated stretch.
You only do it when you need it. But when you need it, it's powerful. Okay? So let's